For those of you who have very short attention spans, we're going to get right to the point in this video. Then I'll stay online to do a little Q&A for those of you who show up at 1 a.m. So we're going to talk about announcing my new live stream schedule. So many of you have been asking, you coming on my show, when is the next show? Do you schedule these? And the answer for the longest time has been no, because a lot of things that happen in my family situation, being in a house with 7 people, things change oftentimes very quickly. So I didn't like locking in a live schedule time because there would be several nights where I'd have to break it. But we have a solution. We're going to be broadcasting from now on, starting Friday nights at 9 p.m. is going to be the kind of steady live stream schedule from now until whenever we figure out a better way to do it when we have more time. Also, just to keep you all in the loop, we will be broadcasting much shorter. So instead of me going for 2 to 3 or sometimes even 4 hours, the live streams are going to be 1 hour long. This came out of a meeting I had with my co-founder, who's right here next to me, almost asleep on the couch next to the Christmas tree. That just respecting the time for our family. And one of the reasons why I've never scheduled live streams is out of respect for my family's time, because they may need me for something. And so I've done these kind of ad hoc. But going forward, it's going to be Friday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be 1 hour of Q&A. So here's the catch. It's probably going to make sense for all of you to get your questions into me ahead of time, since I won't be broadcasting that long, okay? So the easiest ways to get questions to me is on Facebook. Please don't send them to me in comments on videos on YouTube, because it's easy for me to miss that, right? Or if I'm getting the comment and I'm not in a place, like if I'm only on mobile, I'm not in a place where YouTube's going to organize that in a way that's easy for me to re-reference it later so that I can incorporate it into the show, okay? So leave your questions on Facebook, or you can hit me up on Twitter if you're not really a Facebook person. I know some of you younger folks kind of have a thing where you don't really enjoy Facebook. Check out my ugly Christmas sweater. I just got back. Like, it's 1 a.m. We just got back from a Christmas party at a friend's house. And so I'm wearing, like, I can never be a gangster rapper at this point, because now I've worn a sweater that has sequins on it. And if you're familiar with Dr. Dre, that was one of the things when people used to battle him as a rapper. They used to say, dude, we used to see you dance around in sequin suits. You can't be a gangster rapper. So I can't be a gangster rapper now that I've worn a Rudy sweater with sequins on it. And here's a fun fact. Rudy was actually my nickname in high school. Bam. Don't have a good explanation for why that was the case, other than one of my best friends decided I should have been named Rudy instead of Brian. It's kind of how it worked out. But again, live streams, Friday nights, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 hour. Get your questions in either on Facebook, or you can send them to me on Twitter, but make sure you include the hashtag AskBC. Okay, so make sure you include that hashtag so that I can search that hashtag, find all the questions. And what we'll do is basically a rapid fire Q&A, because let's be real, the most valuable part of these YouTube live streams that I do, to basically, someone I saw in the comments said, I'm new to your channel, what are your live streams all about? And they're all about me helping you take command of your life, whether that's from a career perspective, you're trying to enhance your career, or maybe find what your dream career is supposed to be so that you can go and pursue that, whether it's building healthy and happy relationships, friendships, a marriage, romantic relationships. It's overcoming some of the challenges that you face in your life, whether it's anxiety, fear, addiction, any of those things. Building, because, you know, I say career, but that's really work, but also being able to build wealth in the areas of, you know, spiritual wealth, emotional wealth, physical wealth, and financial wealth, right? And then getting your body in shape, helping people put together healthy thinking patterns and workout patterns, things of that nature. But basically, health, wealth, love, happiness is where we focus on helping you take control of your life so that you can live out the destiny that ultimately God put you on the earth to do, and just live like with joy and happiness instead of defeat and bitterness and resentment and fear and anxiety, all the things we weren't designed to live with. And so that's what my live streams are really dedicated to. And because I realize that the Q&A is where the most valuable part of the show comes from. We'll cut out the parts of me talking for half an hour and just go straight into Q&A. You'll get me for an hour, and then I'll go back to doing family time. So for those of you who need that kind of structure in your life, I wanted to be able to respect your time just as much as I would want you to respect mine by saying, okay, we're going to dedicate an hour every week to answer questions. Again, whether it's spiritual, physical, financial, whether it's health, whether it's wealth, whether it's love and career or happiness in general. Those are the things we want to focus on. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and shut up. And if you guys got any quick questions, I'm not going to be up very much longer. I just got back from an awesome Christmas party at a dear friend's house. And I'll take a couple quick questions. Where are you going? My co-pilot's running away. Yeah, but it hadn't gotten bad yet to the point where anybody would have known. Where are you headed, though? No, I know you're going to sleep, but where?
Wherever I won't disturb a child.
You better sleep in the car, then. We got 7 people in this house, Jack. Oh, and I'm sorry. I don't have my laptop in front of me. So if I missed your question, you're going to have to retype it because YouTube doesn't. YouTube's silly. Oh, I stand corrected. YouTube does allow me to scroll through. Let's see. Leif says, you're the shit, yo. Much respect to you and your mission. Thanks, Leif. Sean Prater, thanks. The sequin sweater's funny. Raven says, morning. Just got here. So could you repeat everything you just said? LOL, just kidding. I can watch it. All I said was every week we're going to be doing a live stream 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Friday night. And sometimes it's just the way it is. Some Fridays I'll have to cancel because I'll have something going on with my family. So either way, you'll have me for an hour every week to the degree that I can control it. But go ahead, get your questions in. If you don't have any questions, I'm going to sleep because it's 1 a.m. And I'm tired. My wife's tired. She just left. I'm chewing in your ear. It's awesome. I like the Christmas tree. For those of you that just tuned in, my ugly Christmas sweater that I wore to an awesome Christmas party tonight. Rudolph's red-nosed reindeer. Rudy for short. Trivia question. Rudy was actually my nickname in high school. And I guess I should probably look somewhat like attentive by sitting up instead of just laying on the couch here. So, looks like none of y'all have questions, so I'm going to bed, yo. See, we have Nigel, Raven, Sean, Leif, Denzel, Kimberly, Kristen's here, yo. What's up? Shane says, hi, Brian. Hi, everyone. What up, Shane? Good to see you, man. Delicious. See, one thing about being INFJ, and I'm not sure if it's introverted intuition related, and what the frackle? But when I'm with people, I can look around and rarely anyone is looking around at people. Or maybe it's just me being hyper aware. I don't know. It's a very interesting question. Can honestly say I've never been asked that question before about personality types. I don't really have, I don't know that that has anything to do with you being an INFJ. You know, when you look at kind of the core of the Myers-Briggs, or more importantly, the Carl Jung kind of philosophy behind the psychology that he studied alongside people like Sigmund Freud, it's really basically what his original types were designed to do is measure how we process information and how we make decisions. We've kind of turned it into this, ENTJs are this, and ISTPs are this, and we've turned it into this kind of horoscopy, astrology, kind of general thing that I don't think he really ever intended it to be. So I try as much as I can. As I've learned more, I think some of my earlier content kind of played in that realm too. But as I learned more and got more educated about those things specifically, I've kind of really tried to help you all move into a lot less trying to stereotype yourself and more just using what you can learn about yourself in terms of, okay, if I process information, let's say using introverted intuition, then I know I'm going to have certain tendencies when information comes my way. And if I make decisions based on, let's say, in my case, extroverted um, thinking, then I know uh, beyond human nature where all the decisions we make really are emotional. As much as us T type personalities like to think we're highly logical, everyone's still making decisions based on emotion. That's just kind of the way our brains work. But we can make decisions using thinking, which means it's going to be more outcomes focused, um, but can still be very emotional, versus feeling, for example, when it's more people focused, right? So beyond those things, when people start asking, and the questions I get sometimes, honestly, are somewhat, um, what's the right word? Kind of superfluous. Like, are INFPs more prone to depression? Why? Like, what? Because you're an INFP and you might be depressed. Like, just go find out if you're depressed. Like, knowing whether or not, like, basically, I think sometimes people try to use their Myers Briggs type as a crutch. Like, well, I'm just like that because I'm an ENTJ. It means well, no. Like, you could totally use empathy and behave differently regardless of what your personality type is. Which is why I love to tell people to take the hexacode test because it measures how good you are at that. And I think a lot of people, myself included, at some point on the timeline of existence, stink at it. So, you know, I wouldn't try to say, oh, because I'm an INFJ, that means I'm the one that's going to notice people in the room more than others. I don't think you really ever find anything that supports that. So Leif says, like mid socializing, I can look around and I'm just aware, just watching and absorbing. It's like I disconnect myself from the rhythm of everything. I asked my ENFJ girlfriend, and she said she felt similar. So, like, what I'm reading, I don't really understand what you mean. So, you are looking around the room and watching and absorbing what? Watching what people are doing and just taking in. So, basically, are you trying to say that you spend more time paying attention to people than other people in the room are? It's what you're saying is kind of ethereal. Like there's no real thing. Um, like you disconnect yourself from the rhythm of everything. I don't really understand what you mean by that. Um, that would be a hard thing for me to measure. Like I couldn't hook you up to a machine and say, how disconnected from the rhythm are you? That's part of the reason why I don't like the Myers Briggs test because it's not really measuring things that are measurable, like testosterone in your body or how much cortisol or dopamine is in your system at the time. Um, do you have elevated levels of serotonin? Like things that we can actually measure to say, okay, based on that, then I can say this about you as a person versus, kind of these stereotypical horoscopes that we've come up for personality types. Like the implication that I'm hearing from your question, and you may not be implying this, is because I'm an INFJ, I'm more hyper aware of my surroundings than the other people around me. Well, like I would potentially counter that with, hey man, what are you doing awake? You're supposed to be in the bed. Go get in the bed.
Where's mom?
In the bed. Go get in the bed. Go get in your bed. I love you. Um, like using me as an example, I am highly situationally aware in every situation that I'm in because I've been in situations where I've been in crowds of people and been concerned that the people there are trying to kill me based on my line of work. So when I go into a crowd of people, I am potentially whatever if what you mean by disconnected from the rhythm means you're disconnecting from what's going on and you're focused on what's happening around you, like what I would call situational awareness. My situational awareness is always on high alert because, I've lived in situations where being in crowded places, I'm concerned about someone trying to blow us up or shoot at us. So, a lot of life experience can have something to do with that, and it could be completely not tied to my personality type at all. So yeah, and Raven brings up an interesting point. that she's an INTP and feels the same, even though I'm still kind of in that. I don't like, basically what I'm trying to very nicely say is I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I disconnect myself from the rhythm. What is, put that in terms that aren't so esoteric. Like, what do you mean specifically that you are doing that you're asking me to measure for you? Right. And so, like Raven's saying that when she's at the pub, she's people watching instead of participating in the conversation. But she goes on to say this is a good trait for a mom. Well, of course. Of course, you're going to be wired to pay attention to what's going on around you, because if you're in a crowd with your kids, you want to keep them safe, which again may have more, it may be more correlated with the fact that you're a mother than the fact that you're an INTP. And what I'm always trying to caution people against is trying to build stereotypes around your personality types. Like, I'm an ENTJ, that's why I am curt when I talk to people. Not necessarily true. I might be curt with people because I'm an asshole, which has nothing to do with the fact that I'm an ENTJ, right? Because ENTJs can be highly compassionate, can be highly empathetic, right? But a lot of those are behaviors and traits that you can develop over time and learn to get better at them through practice. They're not like hard, it's not hard coded to my DNA that I lack empathy, right? It just may mean that I've come into the world at a certain point and I've got to work to get my empathy to be better, which isn't at all going to be tied to my Myers-Briggs magical box of 16 boxes that I fit into. So that's what I'm always trying to caution people against, is reverse engineering. Oh, I do this thing because I'm an ENTJ. Like, there's not many things that I would attribute to that. I can say that because I'm an ENTJ, I make this, like, my default decision making process works like blank. Okay, there's some things that you can observe about my personality type that are that, or I process information in this way. But if you read a lot of the things that are out there on cognitive functions and personality types, you can get conflicting information, which I think is actually right, because a wise man once told me that nobody is always anything, especially not a human being. Okay, Denzel says, I'm struggling to find faith with God, and I'm not sure how. And it's hard because there's so much fake people giving out fake information that I'm not sure who I should listen to. Okay, so if the issue you're having is that fake people are giving out fake information, then your issue is you're trying to put your faith in people instead of putting your faith in God. And so where you need to do is just assess where you, like, if having faith in God is something that's important to you, then it's just assessing where are you right now, right? And then just dealing with God as you understand him in the moment. In fact, there's a scripture in the Bible. It's in the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, which is the chapter on love, which is something I reference a lot when I'm talking about love and relationships, because I think that's a much better definition of love than kind of the romantic Hollywood definition you can get, which is really just infatuation. But at the end of that scripture, it says, today, we only see in part, as if we're looking inside of a dim mirror. But there's coming a time where we will see the whole, right? And that's alluding to the fact that while we're on Earth, we're limited by our own cognitive functions that are not on par with infinite knowledge and God, right? And so, but there's going to come a day where we do make that tangible connection where all the mysteries of the universe and the things that we think about and that we've seen, we'll see it completely objectively and clearly. Right. And I think the problem is people want to come to God and have everything just make sense and be perfect. And when it's not like that, then they feel like the problem is I lack faith, which isn't necessarily true. The fact that you are looking for something to believe in means you have faith. It's just you need to assess where you are today and give yourself the same mercy that God would give you, which is, I'm going to assess where you are in your heart right now today. And if you are earnestly seeking me out, there's an old proverb that says, ask and you shall receive, seek and you will find, knock and the door shall be open. And right now you're doing all of those things. So give yourself a break. Like, just because you don't have it all figured out and it doesn't all quite make sense to you, it doesn't have to today. And in fact, it won't completely make sense to you while you're still on earth, according to what you actually believe when it comes to those things. Let's see. Raven says, I was saying before being a mom, I'm just very aware of my surroundings and being aware of what is happening around me in case it affects me. Sure, but keep in mind that you are also, because you are a woman, you have the potential to be a mom. And some of those traits, all I'm saying is the trait of being situationally aware, I would not attribute that to a personality, a Myers-Briggs 16 box personality. Certainly you could have been situationally aware before, but I can make an argument that that's a genetic thing that's been passed down to you for millennia, because as a woman you are primed to have children, and having a trait of situational awareness would be valuable to you once you have children to help you keep your children alive, right? So all I'm really trying to get to is that I'm not trying to break down and say, Raven, that the exact reason why you're situational aware is this. All I'm saying is there's other correlations you could draw towards having a what you're considering to be a heightened form of situational awareness that has nothing to do with you being an INTP or Leif being an INFJ. All right. And a lot of it can be experiential, right? Like I notice there are certain types of people who aren't very situationally aware, but in many cases, because I've had to teach situational awareness to people, it's that they're not trained to be situationally aware in different situations. And it is a trait that situational awareness can totally be taught. And I don't think it's something that's genetically coded into us. I think if I had to make a case, I would say both of you, if you have what you consider to be heightened situational awareness, is because you've had life experiences that have caused you to have to be that way. All right, some other comments and questions came in. Let's see. Raven says, really annoys me when others are not the same, such as in the supermarket. I will move my trolley shopping cart. I love that she put shopping cart in parentheses for us who are not, who are Americans. We're like, what the heck is a trolley? Uh, Out of people's way. Yeah, I'm the same. A lot of people are not trained to be situationally aware because they've never been in a situation where they've had to be. Darcy says, good to see you going live more often, Bryant. My question is, why are there not a whole lot of INFPs in business or working a side hustle? Seems like it would be a good fit. Well, first, I would say we don't know that there aren't a lot of INFPs having a side hustle. I can tell you that the bulk of personality types of the people that I coach who are pursuing a side hustle are INFPs. So I wouldn't necessarily say that most INFPs are not pursuing a side hustle, because the very little data that I have would suggest the opposite, that most of the INFPs that I'm dealing with are pursuing a side hustle. So I don't think being an INFP is determining whether or not someone's pursuing a side hustle. I think a lot of that comes down to self-awareness, just in terms of the things you like and the things you want to accomplish in life. And do you have the faith that you can do something on the side and actually be successful with it? Leif says, it's not like it really affects me. It's more like, all right, I'm with 8 friends and they're all chatting. I tend to disconnect myself or zone out and dissect the intent of people. Okay, that's fair. Raven says she completely agrees with me. Best advice for an ISFP: not looking for not looking for the best advice for an ISFP. The best advice for an ISFP is this also the best advice for any other personality type. It's be situationally aware, add value to the world, and you'll get value out. It's the best advice. That doesn't change based on your personality type. What is your opinion of the Enneagram? Do you find it more accurate than the Myers-Briggs system? I like the Enneagram. I don't know that I'd call it more accurate, because Myers-Briggs. Actually, I've not seen any data about the Enneagram. I can tell you that Myers-Briggs is about 50% accurate from the people who have actually measured it. So is Enneagram more than 50% accurate? Meaning, and by accuracy in this particular situation, what I mean is 50% of people who take the Myers-Briggs and then retest test differently. So I guess that's not so much accuracy as it is consistency. But when you're measuring something as not tangible as intuition, or thinking or feeling. Whether or not it's accurate, I don't know. I think it is as accurate as people are able to be honest with themselves. That's what I would say. And I think that goes for any personality test. If I took a Hexaco test and lied on all my answers, it just answered all the questions the way I want to see myself instead of the way I really am, then the test is not going to be accurate. I think the accuracy is really rooted in, can you be honest with yourself and identify things about yourself that may not be comfortable for you to know or believe about yourself? Let's see. Leif says, thank you for talking. I'll probably stay up all night until I find the perfect way to articulate these thoughts. And then I'll get back to you. Yeah, I think you articulated it okay. I think what I was trying to get you to articulate is really what's behind you asking the question. What is the real thing you're trying to figure out? Are you trying to determine whether or not your situational awareness is on a higher level than your friends? That's those. If that's your question, then I would say based on the examples you've given me, yeah, probably. But again, you're also just evaluating a one-off situation. If I put all of you out on a street and I let loose a bear, would your friends all still be chatting it up? Or would they be like, hey, there's a bear, we should probably go back inside, right? Some of that is situational. B, I love this super chill style of film. This is how I roll, bro. This is how I roll. Super chill. Thanks for the answers, says Darcy. Makes sense. Cool. So yeah, Leif, don't stay up all night is the point that I was trying to make, man. You're cool. There's no need to stay up all night. Stay up all night answering questions that aren't so insignificant. Because really, whatever the answer to that question is, it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of life. That answer is not going to help you have a better life. It's kind of a superfluous question. Jeff says, hey, Bryant, thanks for all the INFP content. I still need to pick up that book you were talking about. I think it will be useful. So I have talked about probably 100 books, so I don't know which one you are talking about specifically, but I don't recommend crappy books. I recommend really good and helpful books. So, yep, I'm sure it'll be cool. So, yeah, good questions, everybody. So I told people on Facebook that I actually wasn't going to stream tonight because I got home an hour later than I thought I was going to. But here we are, streaming away. Peter Cole's in the house. What's up, Peter Cole? What is going on, man? Kimberly Kristen says, finally. Cool. All right, last call for questions, friends. And then I'm going to sleeps. That gives me foods, that gives me sleeps. The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. Yeah, that is a good book. Very good book. So is there a such thing as a social introvert? Yep. Introvert and extrovert has honestly not really all that much to do with whether or not you are social. That's a mistake that a lot of people have made. And part of that mistake is the Myers-Briggs fault, because some of the questions they ask, frankly, in my opinion, are stupid. For example, the go-to question I always critique with the Myers-Briggs test is, when you're done, when you go to work and you get off work, would you rather A, go to the pub and hang out with your friends, or B, go home and read a book? And so it's a binary question, meaning it's a one or the other question, and it's, if you answer go to the pub, that's a point for extroversion. If you answer go home, that's introversion. For most of my life, was almost a max extrovert, and in 9 out of 10 situations, I would rather go home and read a book. Why? Because I hate the pub. I hate going to bars and clubs. Nothing could be more annoying to me than having to go to a freaking bar and sit around with a bunch of other people drinking. Like, nothing is less attractive of an activity to me. But it has nothing to do with the fact that I enjoy being sociable, or that I get energy from trying new things or from being around people, which is what extroversion is actually measuring. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the fact that I hate going to places like that. And the question, I think that question was fine back in the 1960s. But nowadays, nah. Let's see. Peter Cole says, finally started really focusing on it. Sorry, I got my hand all over the camera here because I'm scrolling through your questions. Finally started really focusing on what value I'm bringing to my channel, and it's been really helpful. 500 plus views on a video when I used to get around 50. He has 10x'd his effectiveness, friends, all because he's been putting the principles that we teach into practice, and now Peter is getting results. Good job, dude. I'm proud of you. Keep working hard. Denzel says, I do speak to God and ask questions, tell him about my day, but sometimes I don't feel like I'm being heard. It could be that I'm not noticing that he is listening, but at the same time, I'm not sure. So let me ask you a question. If we're talking about the God of the Bible, let's do a quick quiz. Does the Bible say the just shall live by feeling, or that the just shall live by faith? Right? So what a really powerful mentor of mine, and God, he's been a mentor of mine since I was 19 probably. What he taught me was how you feel is not relevant, because God is not working through your feelings, right? He's working through your spirit, which, remember, your feelings are a direct result of your thoughts. And what you feel is totally based upon what this thing tells it to feel. Whatever you associate with an experience, that is going to generate a certain type of feeling. So let me give you an example, because I got into a conversation about this while I was at my Christmas party with someone that really couldn't wrap their head around me saying that. Like, the example that she gave was, so what you're telling me is the people that went through the Holocaust chose to feel bad? Not quite that black and white or overly simplified. But what I'm telling you is, however you frame a situation is going to affect how you think about it. So when my tire got slashed a couple weeks ago, and I had to pull over and take my tire off in the cold, and I was, late for a meeting because of it, I had two ways I could look at that. I was having a sucky day. Somebody slashed my tires, and this sucks. And why is this happening to me when I've got to go to a meeting with a client so I can earn, bring more money into my family and add value to this client? Why is this happening to me? And if I'm living in that space, I'm going to be very miserable about the flat tire. But I stopped and I told myself, you know what? This flat tire may be God's way of keeping me from getting hit by a bus. I win. So I was happy. I was whistling while I changed my tire. So what I'm saying is, the way I'm feeling was a direct result of the way I'm thinking, right? So your feelings are based upon, you're probably thinking, oh, I'm praying, but I'm not getting this tangible physical response to what I'm doing, so God must not be listening. Well, there's no text anywhere or teaching that really supports that. So the feeling you're having is based on how you're thinking, not on whether or not God is responding to you. So what my mentor used to say was, whether you feel God or not, he's still there. Because a lot of times the way you're feeling is because of you, not because of what's happening. It's not because of what's happening around you. It's how you are responding to it. So keep that in mind. Darcy says, doesn't Brian have a reading list? Yes. Darcy, on his website is a book list, and follow B on Insta. Yeah, Insta's the best place to get my book stuff now. Eventually, I'll update all that stuff on my website. I just haven't made the time to do that yet. Boho says, thanks. I very much enjoy listening, watching your videos. Good. I enjoy having you listen to them. Peter says, something I've noticed is I pray for guidance and direction, but don't get answers usually until I take my own actions first. Then all things fall into place, and that's my answer. Faith, action, blessing. Yeah, and I think really in the modern world, because there are examples in the Bible where God gave people very specific things to do, we think that that's how, like, the universe just works. Like, God's going to show up, come to your house, say, hey, listen, you are to go to Harvard University, study computer information systems, not computer science, because that's a sin. Like, we're waiting for this very specific information to come. And what we don't realize is what's documented in text oftentimes are these isolated incidents where something specific needed to go down in order to accomplish the will of God, right? And so we think that that's how it works for everybody, when two things are at play. You were created with free will. One, that means you have the ability to choose. And two, God said, I've given to every person the measure of faith. So what I think a lot of people don't understand is they have more agency. And what I mean by agency, you have more authority to make decisions in your life than you give yourself and God credit for. Like you're waiting for God to give you orders. And what he's saying is, get out into the world and experience the world, do the best that you can, and the responses you get are going to speak to you about what I want to happen. Right? Not to say that, whatever your belief system is, that the Spirit of God can't reveal things to you. But at the same time, it's like we're paralyzed until, we get a burning bush. Like, how many burning bushes were in the Bible? One. Right? And so I just think it's people get paralyzed because they're waiting to be told what to do instead of going out and on faith acting and then being able to react to the results that come. And also there's a proverb that says, the wise man does things with the counsel of many other wise people. So if you need to make a decision, you should be surrounding yourself with wise people that can help. Like, it didn't say the wise man waits for God to come to his house and tell him exactly what to do. It says the wise person surrounds themselves with the counsel of other wise people. Right? Most of the things I've learned to do have come through my mentors and from people in my life, not from a burning bush situation. Raven says, social introvert, love interacting with people. So going back to that question, can an introvert be social? 100%. I know introverts. I'm an extrovert, and depending on the situation, I'm not usually very social. Now, if I'm in a crowd where, like, I jive with the people, like I vibrate well with them, then yeah, like the Christmas party I was at tonight, I didn't shut up the whole time I was there, but I was with people who I love spending time with and being around, and just people who fascinated me and interest me. There's times in my life where I'm not around that. Like, I'm around people who are, for example, interested in things like, there's times where even in my own family, I'm not very social in a situation because my family's talking about something I couldn't care less about, right? So I'll just observe and listen. I won't really engage. And sometimes it's because I'm ignorant about the topic and I'm just like, okay. Or, they're fussing about a topic that I'm just like, I don't care. A really point of contention in my family is like, I don't care who the president is. Like, oh, how can you? Like, cause whatever. Like, we change marginally. Like, the influence that the government has on how we behave is so marginal. Over long periods of time, you see big changes, but those big changes are usually decades in the making. So I'm not saying I'm right. That's just how I look at it. Let's see. Official Gorak says, I feel like the biggest problem I have is finding enough time to be in my own headspace. It ends up throwing off my whole sleep schedule because I want to stay up all hours of the night cooling down. Okay. All right. So for those of you that just tuned in, did you get a look at this delicious, ugly Christmas sweater, yo? That's how I do business. Rudy. Sequence. I can never be a gangster rapper. Now, my dreams of becoming a gangster rapper are over because I wore a sweater that has sequins on it. And everybody knows, if you listen to Dr. Dre, his album, The Chronic, and then the subsequent albums that came out dissing Dr. Dre, that you cannot wear sequins on your clothes and be a gangster. It's official. It was gangster rap music taught me that you can't be a gangster rapper and wear sequins. So any hope I had of becoming a gangster rapper, out the window. Of course, there's really not gangster rap anymore. Now it's weird kind of Dr. Seuss raps of people saying things that I don't understand. I'm like that get off my lawn guy now. All old. All old. All right, last call for questions, y'all. For real this time. Get them in. Be there or be square, because I'm going to bed. All right. So remember, the whole purpose of this call was to just say live streams starting going forward are going to be every Friday for 1 hour, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So definitely plan to be here if you want to get the love. It'll mostly be focused on Q&A. I advise you to get your questions in before the show so I can go right into the show, start the Q&A without having to wait for people to show up before I start answering questions. And plan to be on time. What I noticed is I'll talk for 20 minutes before everybody shows up. And again, that's because it's not scheduled. I get it. Not complaining. Not upset with you. But now that I'm scheduling it, plan to be waiting on the channel at 9 p.m. And Facebook is where I make all the announcements. So by the way, friends, for the love of God, if you're not following me on Facebook, you need to fix that. It's BryantChambers page, not for me, but for you, so you can stay abreast of everything I'm doing. I also post content on Facebook that I don't post on YouTube because it works better on Facebook and more people pay attention to it instead of getting 80 views on something when I have 10,000 subscribers because I didn't talk about INFPs for 30 seconds, right? So definitely do that. Now, if you're one of the Luddites who's against Facebook, listen, ISIS is on Facebook, for God's sake. If you're not on Facebook, you're letting the terrorists win. It's that simple. You got to get it on there, Chief. And you got to follow me because Facebook is the only way until YouTube turns on my community tab, which they turned it on for my other channel, which I post a video once every 3 months on. But they haven't turned it on the BryantChambers channel yet. I have no idea why. This channel crushes that channel in terms of engagement. YouTube's weird. I can't understand them. So until that feature gets turned on, there's not much I can do to keep you all informed here on YouTube. So get at me on Facebook. Denzel says, okay, I'm off. Thank you for answering my questions. It's my pleasure. Okay, looks like all your questions got in, friends. I'm going to bed. I love you all much. Remember that we are stronger than I. I'll see you tomorrow.